Hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to season 3, episode 2, and we speak to Tom Davies from the Proper Mental podcast.
Yeah. Not only is he proper mental, he's proper fit as well, isn't he?
He is proper fit, actually. Yeah. If you're not like us and you can look past hotness, then go and give him a listen. He talks about mental health in his podcast. But today, with us, he speaks about sex and mental health.
Yeah. Which is, it's integral, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got mental health problems and we're all trying to have sex, at least.
Yeah.
So, it works. It works well. It was a good, fun chat, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was absolutely lovely, wasn't he?
Yeah, proper lovely guy.
He was proper lovely. And this episode, like the ones before in season 3, are sponsored by Bang Boom Creative. The lovely Luke.
The lovely Luke Bang Boom.
Yeah.
Bang Boom. The lovely Luke Van
Boom. From Bang Boom.
From Bang Boom, yeah.
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 Absolutely.
He does all the creative stuff.
Yeah. All our pictures, intros for our YouTube, which you can all go and have a look at our videos now. So have a little peep at the visual delights of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get us in your ears and your eyes.
Yeah. And he does our website.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go and have a look at that, it's www.charlieandnina.com.
It is. We also have a Patreon. So if you think that you could chuck us a few quid, it's only £3, isn't it, a month?
Yeah, and then you get some little extra sprinklings of us for that. And you also get to sponsor and support the podcast. Not sponsor, just support.
Yeah.
If you do want to sponsor, there's also that available as well as an option. If you wanted to have a chat about sponsorship, because we've got a shit ton of listeners now, which is amazing.
Since we've become part of the Distraction Pieces podcast, which Distraction Pieces Network, we're a pretty big deal.
Yeah, we're a bit of a big deal. So if you want to sponsor, but you just want to talk about figures or whatever to start with, drop me email at hello@charlieandnina.com. Please don't send any nudes to that email address. If you do, then
It's Nina at hello. Just kidding.
Enjoy the episode.
So today, he's a proper good listener, he's proper open, he's proper honest, he's proper mental, and he is the host of Proper Mental Podcast. It's Tom Davies. Good morning.
Hiya, that was a proper intro as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, man. This is really, really cool. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for saying yes.
Yeah. Oh. Have you ever done a sex podcast before?
I haven't. No, I haven't. And do you know what? Like, if there was one podcast I thought would not ask me on, it's this one. I'm the least sexy person that you'll have spoken to. This whole mate, I'm telling you, I'm a basic bitch all the way through.
But, honestly, I'm vanilla as, and we need to normalise vanilla.
That's it, man. Normalise,
people that just want missionary sex and not to be beaten up. I just like...
That's it, man. That is it. That's all I want, is not to be beaten up.
Yeah.
But, no, for the opportunity to talk. I always think about the mental health conversation. I'm an advocate. That's what I do. And I think how we normalise that conversation is to have that conversation, but have it in places where we wouldn't normally, right? That's how we kind of normalise these things. And, maybe the mental health conversation just needs a bit of sexing up. Maybe like our powers combined,
Yeah,
maybe that's what we'll do.
That's why we asked you, because we have the exact same message. Like, you can't normalise conversations unless you're actually having them yourself. So we really appreciate our guests when they do say yes, because not a lot of people say yes to us, do they? Because it's such a scary thing for people to talk about. And I assume you've got the same issue with mental health. Like, it's still a massive taboo and people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, very much so. And it's really weird because you probably have the same as well. It's like approaching people is really weird because, like, for me, I tried not to come off like some sort of ambulance chaser. Like, oh, you've had a breakdown, I'll just slide into your DMs. Like
it's really on the verge of meltdown.
I've got a podcast.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. How sick are you exactly? But it's so yeah, I've always kind of do like a lot of research into like where people are with it before I approach them. And I imagine you have to kind of pick your words when you email or message people as well, you invite them on a sex podcast, but you need to
like, do you want to come on and talk about fucking? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And that works with some people.
Yeah. And for other people, they're like, oh God, absolutely not. Or I don't have anything to add to this conversation. And you're like, of course you do. Everyone has got something to add to the sex conversations, and the same with mental health, because it's really is an everyone thing. Sex is for everyone. Mental health and maintaining good mental health is paramount for everyone, I think.
Yeah. Even if you're not having sex, or maybe you're like an asexual.
Yeah.
How does sex in the world affect someone that doesn't want to have sex? Like it's all relevant, because we're all adults. It's all what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And that's how you create a more compassionate society, right? Is learn more about other people, learn to see the world through other people's eyes, and then we can all get on a bit better and look after each other a bit more. And that's what we're.
It's hard to be vulnerable, isn't it? And I think when you're talking about sex and when you're talking about mental health, you're having to expose like a certain amount of yourself. And when you expose yourself, you're opening yourself up to what you think is going to be rejection or ridicule. And really people just relate to it and just go, yeah, no, I know I've had a few tough times, or I've had some weird sexual encounters. And it's definitely that point that you need to get to with absolutely everyone, to relate to everyone. I think during the lockdown as well, like everyone had to have a little look at themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a lot, right? It was a lot like weirdly. So like for myself, I felt like I was put on this earth to go through a lockdown. Like it was perfect for me. I'm socially anxious. I like spending time on my own. I don't want to mix with people. I like, like it just, everything went really, really slow. I have to live my life really, really slow. We'll probably talk about it later, but I have this like 80% rule where I never let life speed up past 80% because I don't cope with it very well. So like, I like everything to be calm, everything to be slow. It was perfect for me. It was like going for when you go for a job interview and you think, I fucking got this. I know I'm going to get this. That's how I felt going into lockdown. But then for people who were the opposite of me, it was really hard. And I think it's really interesting because it kind of, I suppose a lot of people who might not have known a lot about mental health suddenly had to maybe start thinking about it, right? I had to start thinking, oh, right, there is something in this, or this is how it might feel, or, it gave everyone a lot to think about, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like all those like extroverted people that have been almost supporting the stigma of mental health, like, oh, I don't have any mental health problems, so I don't understand it kind of attitudes. Suddenly they're not allowed to be around people anymore, and they are plummeting.
Yeah,
they probably gave everyone a lot to think about. You're right.
And modern life is so distracting. So if you've got something bubbling away in the background, and it doesn't even have to be like a mental health thing, it can just be something you need to deal with, right? Because that's another important conversation, is like normal thoughts, normal feelings, normal issues are not necessarily a mental health problem, right? It's just some shit that as humans we've all got to deal with. But if you've got anything bubbling away in the back of your head, it's so easy to distract yourself with it, whether that's through like going out, your phone, social life, work, all these things. Suddenly all of that's gone and you've got nothing but yourself. And you've not sat with yourself for a long, long time. And all of a sudden, that's a lot to deal with. And then maybe things do change from being just like a human emotion into something that's more like a mental health or a mental ill health thing that's going on. So I think that was a challenge for people, right? To just sit still with themselves. That's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, it's hard if you're not used to it.
Yeah, definitely. Very much so.
Yeah. Oh.
And then you're stuck as well on the other side. People were discovering that perhaps their life partner was not the person they wanted to spend their life with. And so the lockdown did loads of stuff for sex for people. Some people, it brought people closer. Quite a few people, it drove them further apart. People rushed into relationships. There was a few articles I read where people who were on dating sites who'd been dating for someone like 2 weeks were like, I really like this person, let's move in together. And you're like, fucking no, don't do it. But they've come out of it and survived.
Yeah.
And marriages of long times have not been so lucky. So
there's a
I
lot.
knew you for 15 years.
Yeah.
And when you said you wanted to move in with me during lockdown, I had the same. I was like, no way. No, this is going to be hell on the inside.
And
on the outside,
yeah,
I was
sure,
like,
bring your shit.
Yeah, go on. Why not?
But I think it worked out quite well for us, really. But I mean, we're still here.
That's the main thing, right?
We're still having sex.
That's it. Still at it. That's the main thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so sex and mental health. There's a lot of evidence that supports like sex, masturbation, etc. That, you know, it's good for your mental health. Like releases endorphins, and it, you know, makes you feel confident. And, you know, it's like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? So I think a lot of mental health issues stem from the fact that we are drifting so far away from our original design. You know, there's certain stuff as a human being we're kind of designed for, and that's to, you know, eat certain things and live in a certain way and get outside and be physically challenged and all, you know, like connected through living as a tribe and all this sort of thing. And sex is one of them, right? Like it's a basic human thing. If you, I don't know off the top of my head, if I don't know if you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Have you heard of that triangle? So it's like a triangle system, and everything at the bottom is the foundations. I don't know if sex is at that, I can't remember, but it could be, you know, like it's feasible. So it's like a very human thing. And your brain, like you say, it releases specific chemicals to make us feel nice, so we want to do it more and we want to like reproduce and all that. But like so many things, like with all the basics, right, as humans, we've just fucked it up, right? So it's food, right? We can't just have food now. We've got to have all this like crazy foods and have weird relationships with food and eat too much of it and not enough of it and all the rest of it. Same with exercise. And it's the same with sex, isn't it? It should be so simple, but it's so fucking, people make it so complicated, don't they? And, you know, and I think that's got to impact people's mental health. I suppose it's like, how you're doing it and who you're doing it with is going to have the most impact on your mental health, right? That's probably going to be the way of looking at it. There'll be studies out there somewhere.
Problems stem from.
Yeah, who you're shagging. That's it. That's the basis of your mental health problem.
Yeah, but yeah, completely. Like it's the outside world, isn't it? That influences you so much. Like there's so much like pressure on people to conform, and the same with sexuality. Like you're not allowed to explore your sexuality, are you? And you've got to, like, if you're like gay or trans, for example, you're just not allowed to do that. So, you know, these outside influences that are stopping us and judging us. It's the same with everything. Like you said, with food, there's certain things that you're not allowed to eat. Like sometimes now when you post like a fucking burger on Instagram, some vegan is going, shouldn't eat that.
Yeah, that's it. Or watch the carbs in that bun. Don't be or the sugar in the ketchup. You know, there's always something, isn't it? Yeah, there's always telling
you who you can fuck, what you can eat, and you just think, leave everyone alone.
Just trying to suck the joy out of everything. If it's not hard enough for everyone anyway, so there's always someone going, well, shouldn't be really doing that, should you? Oh, fuck off.
No, that's it. And we got, you know, to be well, whether that's like physically well, mentally well, emotionally well, spiritually well, any of these different facets of health. You just got to like get the basics right, isn't it? That's important. And, you know, like, I suppose like one thing that I've found from talking to loads of people on my podcast is how much like authenticity affects our mental health. And when you can't live in an authentic way, if you can't step into yourself and be the person that you are for fear of reprisal or because society won't let you or anything like that, it's really damaging. Really, really damaging. Pretending to be happy when you're not, pretending to be something that you are not, is so hard. And I think sex comes into that category because, you know, like you say, like, I don't know, it's complicated, isn't it? But whether who you're having sex with and how you're having sex is so dictated by society's idea of what people should be doing and when they should be doing it and who they should be doing it with. And, you know, it's a form of self-expression, right, in a way. And if you can't express yourself in a way that makes you feel good and makes you feel like yourself, well, that's going to impact your mental state. It just has to. Yeah.
Do you think the decline of mental wellness and and loss of sex life often come hand in hand, don't they? And especially if, well, I say especially, but if you're going untreated for mental illness, it's got a steady decline, hasn't it? Because you start losing interest in absolutely everything. You don't want to, you can't be bothered, can't be bothered with yourself, can't be bothered with someone else. But then there is also the flip side to that, where people are being treated for mental illness, and are finding that their sex life is not picking up when their symptoms of this are being masked or whatever by antidepressants.
Yeah.
So what do you think's better?
Oh, but I don't know. It's so mental health, so individual. And, you know, I'm not an expert. I've done no training. I've done nothing other than lived experience and speaking to a lot of people. You know, that's only why I know what to talk about, because someone's told me about it on this podcast. But I don't know. I just think it's so complicated, and everyone's experience is different, right? So, like, for me, when I was really, really poorly, I was poorly all the time, but I wasn't feeling it all the time. So we always think of mental health. We always think of a breakdown as this thing, like the guy in EastEnders on the roof and everyone's saying, don't jump. And it's like this great big thing. I'd go to work. Do you know what I mean? I'd take my kids to school. I'd kind of go about my life. And on the inside, I was in the worst place I've ever been. But on the outside, I was just going through normal life. There wasn't a big thing, you know, there wasn't a big eruption or a scene on a bridge or anything like that. And on good days, I'd really want to have sex with my wife. And on bad days, I really wouldn't. And, you know, it was that simple, you know, it was really that simple. But I think, like, when you're not well, I think your brain's got other priorities. You know, I think your brain's like, oh, well, let's not, we got all this other stuff. You haven't got the energy, have you, to have sex? Because your brain is just using what limited energy you've got is just to get you through the day. Because pretending you're well is fucking exhausting.
Oh God,
you know, and there's no energy left over for any nice stuff. It's just get through one day. If I get through this day, if I can get through this day without doing something horrible or saying something horrible or doing something stupid, that's a win. Like, shagging's just not on the radar, you know. And I don't know a great deal about antidepressants. But they complicate things, right? You know, people's experiences of that. It's not my experience. My experience is actually pretty good when I got prescribed pills, right? So I didn't take meds for years. I was always anti it. I listened to all the stigma. I listened to all the nonsense. I look back now and I wish I'd gone on them sooner. Again, not for everyone. I'm not advocating one way or another, but I'd take, like, antidepressant advice of someone that I would not take fucking dietary advice or childcare advice or fucking any other advice, and because they were like confirming my narrative. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, you're a wise person to chat to about this.
Yes.
But so I was prescribed sertraline, and sertraline is also prescribed for premature ejaculation, and I just had like normal ejaculation. So it kind of like, it gave me a bit of extra in the tank. So that was like a real surprise for me and my wife, because when I'm starting to get well, the antidepressants are working. You know, the Christmas I started taking them, she said, I feel like I've got my husband back for the first time in years. You know, it's like a real big thing. So we're like almost a new honeymoon phase, because I'm back, you know, I'm me again. I'm the man she married. And and then suddenly I can like just go all night if I wanted to, and from the help of these pills.
God. Yeah.
So for us, that it was wicked. Yeah, it was really, really it was really cool. Yeah, it's just that little bit extra to, you know, to keep going. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that sertraline was
Yeah. So when I started meds, the therapist I was working with at that time, he said to me, look, if you're going to take something every day, you might as well become an expert in it. So I did. So I read up on it. He lent me a book, and it's the book that the doctors use when they like looking through, you know, different things and side effects and all the rest of it. And that's one of them. Yeah, they prescribe it for, premature ejaculation. So yeah, there you go. Handy tip if anyone's struggling. Get on the old sertraline.
A little tip.
Just a little tip.
Yeah. So for me, not only did it bring me back to life, not only did it help me get to a point where I could then start to work on my mental health and get well again, but yeah, it also kind of like, it was a really handy way of like revitalizing that side of my life as well, because I'd not really had much interest in it for a few years.
Do you think that the sort of spike in your sex life coming back was really helpful towards building your like mental wellness. So do you
Yeah.
think that like once things started falling back into place and you got to a stage where you're like banging all the time, were you like, oh, okay, this is the key, this is where it all went wrong?
It certainly helped, you know, because I felt like I had a lot of I burned a lot of bridges when I was poorly. You know, depression in particular is a selfish, snidey disease, and it made me really behave in a really selfish way. But also, to get well, I had to be really selfish. I had to focus on my own like journey. I couldn't, you know, my wife had to kind of do certain things like with the kids and around the house, so that because I didn't have the space for it.
Yeah.
So once I got to a position of wellness to be able to like reconnect in that way, we needed it. You know, it'd been a rough few years. I put her through hell. And one of the most listened episodes of my podcast is one that me and Kim did together. And we went through my story from her perspective, you know, and how that affected her, how it affected our children, how it affected our life together. And so many people connected with that, you know. It was really quite moving. And but yeah, so it was a really good way to reconnect in that way and kind of, just kind of get back to where we were or where we were going or whatever it was. It certainly helps, right? When you're trying to like patch things up and you've been through a rough patch, it's certainly nice to connect together in that way, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And it can so easily go the other way, can't it? If you
completely.
can't communicate with your partner. So yeah, that's great. How are things now?
Yeah, man, we're good. I don't take pills anymore. I've just come off from this year. Over the last few months, I've slowly been just lowering the dose, and then I kind of was just forgetting to take them all the time. So I thought, well, you know, maybe it's definitely time to stop if I can't even remember whether I've took one this week or not. But yeah, no, it's good. And like we had to have a lot of really open conversations, you know, because my mental health dictates a lot of stuff. You know, at one point we were talking, you know, should we have another baby? I got 2 kids and like we both like another one, and we were talking about it, and Kim said to me, well, like my biggest fear in that is like, could your mental health take it? You know, could you go for it? And I said, I'm not even sure I could. Do you know what I mean? So it affects everything. So that's really good, because when she said that, I think the old me would have been really offended and really like, you know, of course I fucking can, you know. But then I was, you know, I was really, it was lovely that she felt that she could say that to me, if that makes sense, you know, that we could talk on that level. And so it's really nice. So there's elements, I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but there's elements where they, you know, where it's enabled us to have a lot of these deeper and more open conversations. That's been really good for our relationship. And if you can connect on that level, then you're connecting on all levels, I think.
Oh yeah, 100.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about your sex life.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be about your current sex life.
Yeah, this is what we really want to know.
Yeah, that's it.
What we got here. Everything else, side note.
Let's get to the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'll kick it off then, shall I?
Yes, please do.
What is your most embarrassing sex moment?
This was really interesting. You mentioned like, you know, talking about like current sex life, and I would feel really weird talking about, I've been with my wife for like 15 years, and kind of before that feels like it doesn't exist. Like I don't really ever remember or think about anything like before I met Kim. And I was like, I really had to rack my brains, and I thought, I don't want to, it's hard thinking of stories that are where I'm embarrassing. Like, I don't want to tell a story where someone else has done something embarrassing and just kind of like throw that out in the world. That felt a bit mean, you know? So I had to think of something about me. But when Kim and I first started dating, and it might even be the first time we slept together, if it wasn't the first, it was definitely like the second or the third. It was really early on. We didn't really know each other. And we were both holiday reps. So we met working abroad, and it so everything involved drink, and we'd been on a really, really boozy day and had like snuck off early from the night out to go back to where I was staying. And we're having sex, and you know, when it's like, when it's new and you're thinking you're really trying to impress someone, so you're putting on all your best moves. You know, you wouldn't normally use all your moves at one go, you know, you normally kind of drip feed them, but just put all the best things going on at once.
Give it all away.
That's it. But I was like, no, I really want to make a good impression. Like everything that's ever worked in the past, just gonna throw it all at the wall and see what's
chaos.
And then she, at some point, she must have dozed off because we were really drunk. And she woke up and she started sort of like pushing me and saying like, oh no, stop. So I immediately like panicked, and in my head I'd gone through like, just flashed through the entire night of anything that could have looked like I've got the signs wrong and this isn't a consensual situation. It was awful. And then she kind of like looked up at me with that squinty drunk face and went, oh, it's you. Oh, that's all right. Carry on. And I was so like mortified that that I just threw a strop and just refused. And I was like, no, I won't carry on. And I'd love to say I didn't finish because of the whole like
best moves.
I know, yeah. And I'd love to say that it was because of the whole like blurry consent issue that I stopped, but it wasn't. It was because my fragile male ego had been completely ruined. And I was like, no, I will not. I'm gonna just go to sleep and have a strop. And that makes me feel quite embarrassed. So that's probably my most embarrassing story.
Oh, that is brilliant. I've thrown strops before.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, when my ego's a little bit bruised.
Have you?
Yeah.
What, like mid-sex? Just gone, no, that's it, you're not having any more?
Yeah. Well, everyone might find this really hard to believe, but I've experienced quite a few floppy penises.
I find it very difficult to believe. I
So
hear it's terrible. I wouldn't know.
It is.
Me neither.
It's awful. I'm terrible in bed. But I've had quite a few people go soft on me. And when they're like, oh no, this doesn't normally happen, I'm like, get the fuck out. How dare you? When I was younger, obviously, now I understand.
Oh,
that's the thing. All of these weird, like all of these embarrassing situations are all when you're like young, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that's that like societal thing again, though, like telling us what sort of sex we should be having? And, because it's, I don't know, especially when you're younger and it's either, all you know about it is from like watching films or, watching porn or it depends how old you are really. But yeah. And I think that's it, isn't it? That's how your ego gets involved.
And I think you don't know how many flaccid penises you're going to encounter because like when you watch the films and things like that, it's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
So if you're like encountering more and more soft dicks, you're probably like, what is this?
Why doesn't anyone want to have sex with
Why
me?
hasn't everyone got a massive erection?
You do. You take it so personally, don't you?
Do a survey and then work out a ratio, and then you could start letting people know. Early on, it's like just to let you know, you're probably going to see, depending on how active you are, maybe 5 or 10 in your, and then you're prepared for it
in the beginning.
Yeah. Or like there are many reasons why a man might get a flaccid penis.
It's not because you're not hot.
Yeah, but you just think it's because of you, don't you?
Yeah.
Especially when you're like a young woman as well, because we're all about having to please men.
Yeah.
So if they're not
pleased,
if they're not pleased,
do I not entertain you?
Are you not entertained?
But I think like for a man that would be really embarrassing as well.
Yeah. I'm wounded so much that I'm throwing someone out. Can you imagine? The man is probably mortified and like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. And then I kick him out on the fucking street. Can you imagine how they feel?
Oh my God.
Oh, horrible.
You're damaging like men left, right and centre. You're a monster, aren't you?
Yeah.
Has anyone ever like come back 5 minutes knocking on the door? It's like, it's ready. I'm good again. Can I come back in?
I've had that as well. I have had that. And I'm like, no, I'm sulking now.
Yeah, you had your chance.
Well, you had that guy who like wrote you a letter, didn't you?
Yeah.
Apologising. A letter.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if that's sweet or sad, to be honest.
I don't know.
It didn't work. So yeah, you had your chance.
Yeah, that's it. And you blow it.
Okay, so where is the weirdest place you've had sex?
Well, I've mentioned before that my wife and I were holiday reps, and on the resort where we work, the resort where the customers used to arrive, there was this big like marquee, and they'd all like turn up, and the reps used to wait in there to show them to their accommodation and all that sort of stuff. And we were walking home once, again very early doors, and we just nipped in there to the office, And then we worked in that resort for another 3 years. So like we'd constantly be just, I don't know, someone would be doing paperwork in there and it'd be like, that's the desk. So it stayed cute all the time. But my wife is famously, she's quite ditzy. She loses things. She falls over. She's always doing daft stuff. And the morning after we had our little thing in the reception marquee, she woke up in the morning and she was getting dressed and she was like, I can't find my shoe and I can't find my knickers. And it was so I got dressed and like snuck up there. It was still dead early in the morning, and in the back there was just like carnage. There's like, like I said, the knickers were there, a shoe was there, an earring. It was just, we haven't been sly or anything at all. There's just like carnage everywhere. And because I'm like dead anxious, I'm a control freak, right? So I have to control everything. So as far as I was concerned, we'd kind of like CSI crime scened it, and no one was ever going to know. And then there's my missus just like leaving her clothes and a shoe, just drapes and stuff all over the place. But yeah, that was probably the weirdest. Like I say, we're quite, we're pretty really bog standard. So it took a lot of thinking to find somewhere that wasn't a bed or a couch.
I love the idea that she's so carefree. She's just like bra, shoe, earring, and then you're like, I can't deal with this. And you're going around hoovering and making sure there's not one single hair.
Yeah, that's it.
Chaos
She's
of that.
walking home with one shoe on and no knickers.
Yeah, like a slutty Cinderella.
Exactly that.
I love it. Have you ever had sex at work?
Yeah.
What, not the job that we worked in?
No,
together?
not the job that we were. Yeah, I was fucking everyone. You just didn't know.
Well, you'd be the only person that wasn't if you weren't. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I didn't have sex where we worked together. But I did have sex I worked at like various holiday parks. And there was a guy who worked in the kitchen, and I thought he was the dreamiest guy ever. His name was Jason. God rest his soul. He was fucked. He was like covered in scars. He had like a gold tooth, shaved dead. Oh my God, it was like...
Sounds sexy.
He was proper, he was like scum, but yeah, and we did have sex in the kitchen, which was like quite good.
Yeah, and not very hygienic.
And not very hygienic.
I bet his hygiene rating wasn't a 5.
No.
I mean, no one was there for the chicken nuggets anyway. This guy, he was fucking like hung like a donkey. So people were just like popping by just to see him like walking around in like grey tracksuit bottoms and
he was the local holiday camp sex symbol.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, all the teen girls were like knocking around there, hoping that Jason would give him a little wink. And I was like, fuck that. Yeah. I don't recommend sex in the kitchen. Sorry.
It can.
Public Health England.
Yeah. I'm probably quite similar to your wife. I'm quite clumsy and I get a lot of injuries through sex. Like I'm constantly hurting myself through sex in some way or another. So yeah, sex in the kitchen is
no go.
Can be tragic.
No, don't interest me in the slightest. Not at all. No.
Get in a bed.
Yeah, that's it. Getting a bed. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, nowadays there's the option of like I have my own home. So the thought of going anywhere else to have sex, I'm like, are you mad? Why would I do that? You just wouldn't, would you now?
It's so much easier in a bed.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
and we're old, aren't we now? We can't handle like
cushioning for your old bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't handle being like fucked against a tree anymore.
Those days are gone.
Yeah. It takes weeks to recover from.
Yeah.
Okay.
One moment, one tree where you went, that is it. That no more trees for me. I'm done with this tree. Yeah.
You've only got to fuck against a tree once and then you can say you fucked on a tree, can't you?
Yeah.
So
that's it.
You're going to keep doing it.
It's like sex in a car, isn't it? Like it's very much a teenager's game.
Yeah.
There ain't my knees wouldn't take it these days. Oh God, absolutely not.
No, get in a bed. Yeah. Get in a bed. Okay, celebrity crushes. Who was your first celebrity crush?
I was blessed, right? Because I was a teenager in the 90s, and I feel like that was a really good era for crushes. That was really So, oh crikey, I've given this a lot of thought. I've
Revisiting the old.
Yeah, that's it.
You can do a top 5 if you want. We haven't got to pick one.
Yeah, we'll take them all.
Well, that's good to know. But yeah, I think the 90s was really good, wasn't it? It was a really good era for you had a lot of like really good looking girl groups around, and I'm going to sound really old now, but everything now I find is like so sexualized, and I don't find that sexy, like I liked girl bands when they wore like baggy trousers and you see a little bit of thong out the back, like that was that to me was sexy, not just like tiny bikinis and all the rest of it. Yeah. But when I was probably someone like Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, like a classic, that would have that probably would have been an early one. Yeah. Or the I don't know the actress's name, but the lady who was in Crocodile Dundee. Where he's like kind of watching her through the trees and she's like washing her shins or something, and it's really maybe something like that would have been had quite an impact early on. But yeah, Buffy, that would have been a safe anyone from that era probably.
Yeah. So you like a strong woman then?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Strong independent woman.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Those things are sexy, aren't they? I think people were sexier. Like,
well, TV was a really big thing, wasn't it, in the 90s? It kind of came, it was kind of breaking through, wasn't it, in a big way. So there wasn't, and they didn't have those regulations like there are now. So you could just be running around fighting vampires wearing like a crop top
with no bra on.
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
If you wanted to. Yeah. And I think the fact that Buffy and Angel couldn't have sex, I thought was really sexy, because there was always that sexual chemistry, wasn't there?
Oh,
and they were just like desperate to fuck, but they never could, because I'm guessing Angel didn't have a penis or something. I can't understand.
Well, no, I think he probably did have a penis, but like, doesn't your heart have to be beating to get an erection?
I don't know. I can't remember what the ins and outs were as to why they couldn't physically have sex. It wasn't like a...
But she was fucking Spike, wasn't she? What?
There's lots of kissing. There was lots of kissing going on.
Passion out, yeah.
Which created the sexual tension, but they couldn't... I can't remember the reason why.
Maybe sex was sexier when you couldn't have sex.
Sex is sexier when you can't have sex.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, let's clear that up. Sorry, we're just having a conversation now about your crush not being able to...
No, I'm interested. I never really thought of it from Angel's perspective before. I'm reevaluating the whole thing. Yeah.
God, can you imagine just being presented with this like petite little blonde that kicks ass and you can't even?
Yeah.
God.
Poor Angel.
Poor Angel. I know. A little bit of sympathy there. What is your go-to sex song?
I think sex songs are really weird. I think that's like a really weird thing. And I was trying to like, like everyone's got a mate who picked a really commercially successful song to get played at their nan's funeral, and then when they hear it in Asda, they're always like, "Oh, it reminds me of my nan," and like you hear that song everywhere. I always think of sex songs are being a bit like that. It's like you've got your song that you save for your sex and you're shagging, and then you hear it one minute you're like pushing your trolley around Asda, and does it have the same effect? Do you know what I mean? You get sad when you hear the funeral song. You walk around Asda with your trolley and start getting the tingles.
Get a random boner.
Yeah, that's it. Just walk around Asda with a semi on, think I fucking love this song. But yeah, so I haven't. I wouldn't have a song, but when my kids were small, my kids, there's only 18 months between them, right? So at one point we essentially had like 2 babies in the house, really. And so because it's that whole sleep thing, as soon as they're asleep, they're going to wake up soon anyway. Don't do anything that wakes up the baby. So we went through a phase of having a lot of sex downstairs because we didn't want to come up and make any noise and potentially like wake a kid up. And one was always in our bed anyway, or in the cot in the bedroom or anything. And you want to have something on in the background, don't you? But yeah, you got to be particular about it. And because we're in the lounge, we'd normally like throw something on the telly, like one of the like radio stations or anything. There is not good sex choices on the radio coming through the telly. It's from like Radio 5 Live or Kerrang or, like all them ones. So we normally, just to kind of get something on, would go for my miss is going to kill me for saying this. We throw on something like soft, like Smooth FM, something like that. And it was always the worst because, like, when you're in the moment, I've never been like having sex and thought like, oh yeah, that's a good song. You know, I tend to not notice things like that, but it's afterwards, you know, when you're kind of like just taking a minute and you're on your come down, and then it's like Smooth FM, but like Elton John's playing or something like that. This is
Hot
the
chocolate.
worst. This is
Yeah.
the worst. Yeah, if I'd have noticed this at the start, I'm not even sure if I could have managed this. But yeah, but I don't have a specific song at all. No, I think that's a bit, I don't know. I think that's a bit odd. I've never thought about it.
Do you not have a sexy playlist? No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Maybe I should try. Maybe it was, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, don't take sex playlist advice from me, because I'm the worst for it.
But I know loads of sexy songs, and we've created a sex playlist actually that's on Spotify. So we'll share it with you.
Yeah,
You
please
can
do.
have a listen.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes when you're used to listening to, I mean, people think of sexy songs and they do think of cheesy songs
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, Barry White and all that stereotypical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously no one wants to have sex to Barry White anymore, do they?
Those days are
You
gone.
probably do.
I mean, I would still. I had sex with the Fraggle Rock venture. I'll fucking it's anything.
I was not expecting the Fraggles to come up today. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I might hear, but Fraggles wasn't one of them. But yeah, I haven't got a
say. Someone was legitimately listening to, because I was in my kitchen, the Muppets, Mana on loop whilst I was in the kitchen, and I was thinking, who's listening to that song more than once on purpose?
That is mental.
Yeah. Did that get stuck in your head? Because that's the worst, isn't it?
Yeah.
That one for like you find yourself later on in the afternoon.
Yeah. Like, bang into it.
I don't know. How long was it on repeat for?
Well, it seemed like an eternity.
Unless someone stuck it on and then
died.
Oh
no.
God, can you imagine dying listening to that? That's the last thing you hear.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it might be stuck in your head into the afterlife, and that's it. And that's just your song for forever. You can never not hear it.
Oh God.
You come back as a ghost, and that's your theme tune. When you
or sing it to people, yeah, by haunting them. Maybe that's what it was. It was a ghost haunting your neighbour's house.
That is proper
that song.
sinister, though, isn't it? Can you imagine that if you're already scared, and then a ghost appears, and it's like, mana, mana.
yeah.
It's like nursery rhymes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
When there's like a little girl ghost, and it's going twinkle,
yeah,
twinkle, but it's the imagine that. Imagine a horror film.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, like in Saw, where he comes on his bike, that little puppet thing comes on his bike. He just opens his mouth. Or all the other ghosts could just come in and they're all joining in, you know, like the Muppets do, just like loads of ghosts. Yeah.
Oh my God.
One of them on drums. Yeah, I love it.
Wowzers. Yeah, that's horrible. That is truly sinister.
Yeah. Okay, so we know you're vanilla,
yeah,
which I'm in full support of.
Good.
What is the kinkiest thing you've ever done? By your standards.
By my standard, I don't think I've ever done anything that could be considered kinky at all. I've been racking my brains.
Sex at work.
Yeah, that's a little bit kinky.
Sex
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think it
It's
is.
a bit risky, isn't it?
Maybe I'm more vanilla than you.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't on duty. I wasn't actually.
Yeah,
I wasn't
I'm
there
not
working.
mental. I wasn't working.
I wasn't
I was
working.
out of hours.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And my wife had said, "Look, no more trees. I've turned my back on." But yeah, I genuinely don't. I really don't think I have, and I wouldn't want to. Like, I'm not very good out of my comfort zone anyway, and you know, I'm quite an anxious person. But the idea of I wouldn't like to do anything.
Would you not
anything
try
weird at
something new? Is there no room in your
I mean, if
vanilla sex life to maybe spice things up?
Spice it up. I don't think it needs it. I'm really lucky. I've got not only am I quite vanilla, but I do have quite a low sex drive. It's not like I like having sex, but it's not the highest thing on my priority, on my list of priorities. And my wife's the same. So we're quite lucky that we found each other, because we would both be huge disappointments to other people. But we've found each other, and it works really well. And yeah, I don't think. I mean, if Kim asked me to, then yeah, of course I'd have a bash. But I don't think she would, and I don't think. Yeah, no,
Do you
I
think
don't.
fantasy should stay in the realms of fantasy? Then
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have fantasies, and I don't really like. I don't fancy people off the telly. I think that's weird. Fancying strangers because of what they look like, that doesn't appeal to me. Like I don't have fantasies. There's nothing I really particularly want to do. I like what we do already. It's great, and that's enough.
I love
And,
the thought of your wife listening to this and then just for the lulls thinking of something mental and then going, "Could you do this?" And you just be
Yeah.
like, "No."
Just be like dying inside. Yeah, of course I will.
I'll
be back on
the
me
Muppets theme tune.
be back on me sertraline before you know it. Throwing them down the hatch. But yeah, I'm not, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not in my. It's just really, it's not for me. I'm just not interested. Yeah, I find it all a bit weird. I really do. I find a lot of attitudes towards sex a bit weird. People are like throw away 20-year marriages just for a chance to see a different person naked and stuff like that, and I don't understand it. I don't understand that sort of stuff at all. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm odd, but yeah, nothing.
I don't
No kinks on me.
Yeah, no, if that's the reason, if it's just because you want a different flavor of something, maybe you shouldn't be married at all.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah.
It's mad, but like that does happen, doesn't it? People do just wake up one day and they're like, want something different now.
Yeah, that's it. I want to see someone else's bum or something like that, and I just like, it's just weird, isn't it? How people people's attitudes towards it, and I don't understand it at all. But like I say, I think my wife and I were lucky to find each other in that department. Yeah.
Well, because very often it's like one wants more, one wants less, or it never seems to really like match up. So that is really lucky.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? When you get a bit older and you got kids and you got work, and like it's hard anyway, isn't it? Really, you almost have to put it in your diary. If there's nothing kinky about that.
Yeah.
It's been weeks. It has to happen on Saturday, and you think like up all the way up until Saturday. You're like, yes, can't wait till Saturday. On Saturday, you're like, a bit tired. Could we push it to Sunday? That's real life, right?
Like when you agree to go out, and at the time you're like, yeah, definitely, and it rolls around, you just think, oh fucking hell, I've got to put clothes on.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, when you're busy, you do have to kind of schedule it in, and then you don't need, like I'm the same, like I find that you don't need that extra stimulation really, because you haven't had sex in so long. That's enough. That's enough to get me horny, just someone naked.
Or sometimes
penis, obviously.
Ideally, sometimes you just have to like get it over the line. I find, so if there's been a bit of a dry spell and it's like, right, let's just do it, and it doesn't matter what it is or how, just the fact that it's happened, and then that's usually enough to kind of like kickstart it. Like, don't be too fussy.
Ticking over till next Wednesday.
Don't be too fussy about the first one back, because that's gonna stir up enough feelings to want to get back on the regular again. But sometimes it is just about like, let's just get it done, because otherwise we're just talking about it and it's not happening.
Like an old car. Do you remember old cars used to have the choke?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
but not an actual choke.
Not an actual
choke. Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't catch me doing that. No chance.
Okay, well, that's all our questions.
We have a line of questioning done.
How have you found it?
It was good, man. It was good fun. Yeah, it was a good. It was a good laugh. Like like you said at the start, really, I think having these open and honest conversations about anything, I think it's really, really important. And for a long time, I didn't tell anyone about my mental health, and it was like talking about it and listening to other people talk about theirs played a huge part in my recovery. But I always compare talking about anything like that, whether it's mental health, whether it's shagging, anything at all. It's a bit like Eminem in 8 Mile, isn't it? At the end when he like says all the horrible stuff that they're going to say about him, and then the person's got nothing to say. And as soon as you start talking honestly, and you realize no one gives a fuck, and if anything, most people kind of relate to it in some way, and then it really allows you to step into yourself and just kind of like be who you need to be. And I think it's really important. Yeah, you stop
Yeah.
to.
Definitely. And I think as well, like, people just sort of, if you say you've got a bad mental health, or, you know, you're struggling with something, they think that is just all consuming, and you're supposed to like just walk around with like a black cloud over your head and find no joy in anything. But people are still functioning, like you said, you still went to work, you still had a family, you still do all these things, and that's very much the same. Everyone's going through it, but you do still laugh. Like, some days you'll have a little chuckle, and but you can still be struggling with your mental health.
Yeah, you ain't got to be a victim and play the role of a victim.
Yeah,
and just that little chuckle, that little laugh, that little anything that can get you through another day. Just that little bit of respite, you know, like that 2 minutes that can change anything. And I think that's really important, because as people get more and more poorly, they tend to give up hope, you know, and it's in those little moments where you find the hope to just kind of like re-up and go again, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So your podcast, Proper Mental, is it available on all platforms?
It is absolutely everywhere you get your podcasts from. Go and check it out. I've had all sorts of people. I try and, you know, come at it from as many different perspectives as possible. I'm really conscious that it's just not a load of like 40-year-old white blokes talking about depression, you know, like try and really, really open a conversation. And I try really hard as well, that I think it's really common in a mental health conversation, particularly in the podcasting world, that it's just loads of like really nice chat about wellness and, you know, and all that. And that stuff's important. It's great if people like to listen to it. But I think, you know, that stuff didn't help me when I was struggling. You know, we'll try and talk about the big stuff, the stuff no one talks about, the stuff that's not palatable in you know, in mainstream media, man. Let's talk about schizophrenia, let's talk about suicide, let's talk about bipolar, let's talk about, you know, all these things. And that's what I try and do. And if that sounds interesting to anyone, check it out.
And it is really good. It's award winning now, isn't it?
It is award winning, award nominated. I've had a good summer. So that was pretty cool. And I you know, to bring mental health to, I mean, one of the award I won was a mental health award, and then the other one was at the British Podcast Awards. And to bring kind of mental health to that, when it was much more sort of industry backslapping, you know, it was much more about podcasting and entertaining than it was about anything else. So to bring mental health to that was really lovely as well. Very much so.
And you're lovely as well.
Oh, well,
and
thank you very
you've
much.
got a lovely way about you. So you're
Oh.
perfect. You're a perfect podcast host.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Make it very easy to talk about things, I think. And that's where the door gets opened, isn't it?
Well, that's good. That's that's really lovely. I'm not good at getting compliments, so I spent so long saying horrible things about myself. I'm not I'm not good, but thank you. That means a lot. It's really cool. Really kind of you.
It's really great. I got into you through Gary Mansfield.
Oh, mate. Gary's just a legend, isn't he?
Oh, I fucking love him.
He's an absolute dreamboat, that man.
You're lovely man. His when his episode review was brilliant. That was so funny. It was really good. But Gary's just he's the bee's knees, isn't he? What a lovely man.
Absolutely love him. So go and listen to Tom. Proper Mental podcast. I was going to ask you as well, do you ever get anyone complaining about your podcast being called Proper Mental?
No, I kind of expected to, you know, I did expect it to, and sometimes I get asked about it, but no, I've never had a complaint. For me, it's how I talk, you know, like I get proper thirsty or proper sweaty or proper anything. So, and it's from a direct quote. So when I got sick, when I had my first breakdown, I've had two. And the second one is a direct result of not dealing with the first one. So there's a lesson there for you, folks. is tick your boxes after the first breakdown, or it's coming back. But I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have the words. Mental health was not on my radar. I didn't know. I'd never heard it. I'd never seen anyone who like looked like me or talked like me. You know, I'd kind of seen a few celebrities talking about it, and it's just like kind of rich, posh people that nothing to do with, you know, where I'm from. And I thought I was going proper mental. That's what I said to my wife. You know, I felt I was going mad. I thought I was going to get sectioned. I thought I was going to get locked up. They're going to take my kids, all this sort of stuff is why I didn't tell anyone. But I said to her, I thought I was going proper mental. It's the only words I had for it. It's just how I speak. So, I think it's a sick name, but not yet, not any complaints. But
I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's like, it's how people feel, isn't it?
Mm.
It's how people feel when they do feel mental, like,
yeah,
you know.
When I did the first few episodes with a mate, and then when it started to kind of like get a bit busy, I took it solo, and because there was like two of us, my first idea I wanted to call it the Suicide Squad, but, but I don't think that would have stuck, so we went for proper mental instead. But so I was looking for something that was a little bit, it might push people's buttons, but again, that's how we have the conversation, because a lot of people don't want to hear it, and but we need to hear it.
It's not very PC, is it, to say someone's mental? But you would, that is how you would describe yourself. I wouldn't necessarily describe someone else, like if they were having a breakdown, go, yeah, they're fucking mental. Oh, they've lost it. But I would describe my own mental health as mental, But
it's all, I always find it's the people that aren't mental that get offended by like certain words that you might use, like if you're not using the right, like, words. Do you know what I mean? When you're actually mental and you're in that, you just think, God, just call it what it fucking is. Why you keep turning around and saying that I've got like whatever? I'm fucking mad. The end.
What we call it is the least of my problems. I'm not going to break down.
That's it. Most people don't know how to talk about stuff. You can only use the words that are available to you.
Absolutely.
And something I did learn along the way is, I've gone through phases as this journey's gone on of, what words I think are appropriate and weren't, what aren't. And I've kind of like just keep changing my mind about it, really. But, if we're going to have a conversation about mental health, and you say something about being mental, and I say to you, oh, just to let you know, that's probably not a correct turn of phrase. Well, that's you not engaging in the conversation then, right? You're going to be like, oh, fuck you, I'm trying it. The first thing you do is pull me up on my language. And then you disengage from the conversation. The words don't matter. We can sort that out later. Let's just fucking talk about it first. And then worry about all that stuff later. And I think if we're people, when it comes to anything important, whether it's mental health, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's sexual identity, anything like that, so many people are scared to engage in a conversation because they're so scared of getting it wrong. But we have to get it wrong so we can learn how to get it right. And I think that's really, really important. We can't just know everything. We have to talk about stuff. And if we talk about stuff, we're going to get it fucking wrong, right? And we just have to just be nicer to each other, be a bit more compassionate, and try and flip the narrative, I think.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. That was wicked. I really, really, really enjoyed. When you first asked me, I was dead nervous, and then as the weekend's gone on, I thought, no, I'm doing this. I'm doing this for the missionary fans. Yeah, definitely.
And being part of the conversation, like you said, is a way to stop the stigma for everyone else. So yes, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh mate, no, thanks for having me. No, I dig the show, man. I've been listening since back when you did the other one as well. So
thank you.
It's really cool. I love what you do, and it was a real pleasure, real privilege to be asked.
Oh, good. Thank you.
What a man. Uncut.